Obviously, that first quarter, they scored 39, and after that, it's really a different score defensively. What do you feel like you guys did as far as adjustment?
We didn't adjust. We just tried to do what we planned on doing better. Joel causes you to pay so much attention to him, and then they have guys all over the place that can catch it and do a lot with the ball. But that number had everybody a bit riled up. And then in the second half, they had 40 points. So the response out of halftime and then the response out of the timeout when they cut it to 3, I thought we had 2 huge responses tonight. And, that you can't do that if you don't have a level of mental stamina and stability. I thought all night long, our guys just kind of stayed relatively calm for us. With the officiating not going our way and them getting to the free throw line and different guys getting into foul trouble, I thought all of our guys had a level of, confidence that we'd be okay if we could just put some consecutive stops together. And then in the second half, you saw a totally different defensive intensity. And Mikal, James is Hall of Fame MVP, but Mikal just made it tough on him with his length. And I thought we did a decent job of not reaching on him. There were times where we did. I think Torrey had one in the first half, but for the most part, we did a decent job of not reaching when he drove the ball. But Mikal's defense, again, allows for the rest of us to kind of stay home, and that's a huge weapon for us.
You said that after Sacramento that these kind of games can happen, in the postseason, but it ended up happening in the first half essentially. When you're talking on the bench with guys, is that being brought up again, or is the guys already know, hey, look, we've been here before?
With the officiating, I think for me, and I think it's starting to trickle in with the guys, because I heard a few guys say, look, it doesn't matter, we got to play. And that's my mindset. I don't think I've ever changed an official's mind about a call. And I don't want to I can't spend a lot of time doing all the theatrics and, emotional stuff that I can get into. And I think our guys are starting to buy into that. Even though they have a right to voice their opinion, I think we're doing a much better job of getting back to the task at hand, which is what you have to do, especially when you're playing good teams and when you're on the road. For sure, you have to be that way.
Booker had a season high 22 points in the first quarter. We talked about his first quarters before.
Mm-hmm.
Anything special today?
No, I just think he's just playing within the rhythm of the game, and we needed it. I mean, if you give up 39, you're going to need somebody to carry the load, so to speak, when you're not, scoring the way that you want to, or getting stops the way that you want to. But Book can score in any quarter. That's not anything new. I just thought it was within the confines of what we do in our system. That always makes me, feel good about the rhythm of the game when we're doing it within, our offensive scheme.
Chris, he's been out for 5 weeks. Comes back another double.
Yeah.
How nice is that to have him be able to come back and not miss a beat?
I mean, it's the trust factor that he and I have. When they cut it to 3, I hate subbing one guy like it's his fault, and it wasn't Campaign's fault. We just had a bad stretch. But during those moments, Chris and I just had eye contact. It was like, okay, let's go. And then he just goes out there and does his thing. But the efficiency that he does it with is tremendous, because he's seeing all kinds of defenses, the blitz, the switch. And tonight they were in a drop, but they had really good pursuit in the drop. They would get into Chris and trail him. And so he was snaking a lot. Sometimes that allows for him to get to his mid-range. And then there were a few times where he faked the mid-range and find a guy. And he's seen every defense imaginable, so I don't think it's there's much you can do to stop him. But he also does it within the confines of what we do, and he's just so efficient.
Finally, with
Chris, before he got hurt, you were having a tendency to play him almost 40 minutes a game. And this is 15. Do you think that's a blessing in disguise in some way because his body had a chance to sort of like rejuvenate as you're heading down the stretch and going into the playoffs?
I hope so. I mean, I already lied twice about the minutes I wanted to get him to. I didn't want to get him to past 26. The last game, he got to 30. Tonight, he's at, I think he's at 36. So I think it is for sure to give his body and his mind a chance to rest a little bit, even though he probably doesn't rest as much as you think from a mental standpoint. But I think it has been good for his body.
Monty, something we'll talk about a lot is wear down effect.
Mhm.
Sense confidence from the guys in those parts of the game, like mid third quarter, mid fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, the signature play for me was the last steal McHale got. You know, that's a, you know, sometimes you think about it from an offensive standpoint. If you're just playing 0.5 and move the ball around, it can wear teams down. But tonight I saw it defensively. And then for McHale to pick up that steal on that pocket pass, it reminded me of the game in Portland where Chris got the steal on Lillard in the same situation, tight game. He knew what was coming because the one thing we didn't want to do was let those guys play in the paint. And so we started blitzing and they were stretching us out and picking us apart. So we had to go back to a normal coverage. And his pursuit is a bit of a wear down effect. When you have a guy that has that much length, you don't know if he's going to be on you as the ball handler or if he's going to get in the pocket and take away the pass to the big. And I thought that was case in point of that phrase, wear down effect.
In the second half, especially when Harden and Embiid were looking for a foul call, you guys were able to really run out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing we talked about that was hurting us. You know, there was a stretch this year where we were complaining about a foul that, you know, may have been a valid complaint, but it hurt you in transition. And we wanted to take advantage of that. And we try to do that against, you know, any team that does that. But it's an emotional, competitive game. And I get when players voice their opinion, but when the opposition's doing it, you want to take advantage of it.
You also took advantage, didn't you, of the start of the fourth quarter when he went out and put the ankle?
Yeah. I mean, he was going to take that rest anyway. He was, when he turned it, he was about at his threshold for minutes. I just thought our defense went up a level, and the second unit defense went up. I thought the second unit in the first half, when they came in, it was a bit inconsistent. In the second half, it was a much better effort defensively from that group. It kind of held serve, if you will, so the starters could get some rest.
Just talking about defensive execution, the doubling on Embiid late in the clock or as he's holding the ball.
Yeah.
How did you feel that strategy went?
I mean, again, that could have been a variable of wear down effect, because I thought the one possession where we called it off and DA had fouls, so he didn't want to pick up his fifth, and Joel got to the rim and got a jump hook, and then we went right back to the ODB, and it turned the gym over, and we forced them into two tough possessions. So I think over the course of the game, that particular scheme can help. It doesn't stop guys. I mean, he still had 37, but he has that because he scores, you know, in different spots. He'll score from the nail, the elbow, but when he's on the box, we tried to, you know, double him a bit more than most teams do.
How much does just, you know, without McGee and like Biombo, obviously, how much just being active around Joel affects the game because it's like a great. Instead of just letting him just grab a rebound, attack, and
Yeah.
Biombo got it busted off.
No, I think the activity is something that you can point to, and then also having guys that are, you know, capable of scoring. I thought Biz was pretty active on the offensive end tonight. He missed some shots, but I think you got to make guys like Joe work. If you just let them sit back in the drop and not use a ton of energy and then go back down on offense and you know, destroy you, you know, that's a win-win for them. I think having DA, Biz, and JaVale, guys who can score around the basket and finish, you know, in different ways, I think it helps you against guys like Joel.
Hey, Monty, slightly off topic, but you played played with Hubert Davis.
Mm.
He's got his team in the final
Yeah.
four now. And just wondered your thoughts about what makes him a good coach and, you know, just what he's doing there.
I mean, Hubert was always really thoughtful about the game. He and I come from the same area, and you know, he was, what people don't know about Hubie D was he was almost as good in football as he was in basketball. He was big time wide receiver in high school, and to see him in this position at his, you know, alma mater in the Final Four, it's really cool. I've watched them a few times, and they had some struggles early on, and his ability to keep the group together through the adversity. I saw they were showing some clip today where they played Kentucky early this year and they got beat by like 30 something or 40. And I listened to the players talk about his demeanor, and his positive way allowed for them to have some confidence that they could get it together. And they've been on a heck of a run. That says a lot about the situations he's been in. I remember in New York, Coach Riley trusted Hubert in closing situations, and John Starks would be on the bench sometimes, and he'd have Hubert in the game. And that speaks to, you know, his IQ for the game and his toughness. So I'm not surprised. He's been in that program as an assistant for a while. I'm sure he's learned a ton. The Carolina way is something we've all kind of stolen a lot from. And if you've ever been on that campus and been to the gym with them, they have basketball IVs in their arm. I mean, they are a basketball nirvana, if you will. So I know he's learned a ton being in that program.
This is the first team to improve by 10 wins or more in 3 consecutive seasons. Last team that did it was the Celtics back in 1970. Outside of the wins and the losses, the record, how do you measure progress?
I mean, there's a number of ways you can measure it. The win-loss, for sure, offensive and defensive efficiency, improvement, and then consistency. And then the other way is just watching players get better and watching players get better in tough situations. And I think that's something that we've been able to watch here in Phoenix, is young guys who've been in tight situations, not necessarily fail our first year, but we didn't do as well as we wanted to. And then year by year or year after year, you're watching those guys improve in those situations. And then obviously, you know, gaining respect from the rest of the league in reference to how hard they play against you every night. I think when I listen to other guys, they would talk about this team when they would come visit, and they didn't have a lot of good things to say. And now they know that they better bring it when they come through here because we're a formidable opponent.
Early in the last quarter, early in the third quarter, Jay got his 4th.
Yeah.
You had 5 guys over 3 fouls.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind on pulling Jay at that point, just to, okay, don't get your 5th?
Yeah, I'm a doofus. That's what I am. I just gamble at times, but I think you're going to be in those situations in the playoffs where you have to build that trust in the regular season. That's just the way I was taught. I watched Pop do it for years. If a guy got in foul trouble, sometimes he'd leave him in there just to, you know, let him see how he needs to play. And sometimes it doesn't work. But I think you can do it in various ways. You know, we started putting Mikhail in the game situations, so he'd learn what it was like to be in Book and Chris's position. And there have been times this year where it's really helped us. I think you can do the same thing in those foul situations. My gut is to, you know, trust the player. My brain is telling me to get him out. And then I'm thinking time scoring situation also. But when I look at the guys in their eyes, they look at me and they know like they got to be, you know, less aggressive to not pick up the 3rd foul in the 1st or the 4th in the 2nd. Doesn't always work out, but I think you have to trust your guys and build that trust because you never know when you're going to be in that situation in the playoffs.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.